Have you actually studied the book, The Art of the Deal by Donald Trump? And if not, you should really study it. People should know what they're talking about. I had the advantage to meet Trump a few times about 20 years ago, but the book he wrote 30 years ago, it was a bestseller, summed up crudely his key recipe, formula, advice to some success is 11 steps. The first step is think big, right? And the last step, 11, is have fun. The 9 steps in between you can find out for yourself. And you should, because you will then see why he does things in the manner he does. And as a Gemini, with Uranus in line of his sun at birth, opposite the moon in Sagittarius, this is the alignment we find ourselves in actually now in summer 2017. So he meets this other man who is a Libra, Putin, who has been around 17 years or more, really. He was around Yeltsin picking up the pieces. Let's say 20 years Putin knows what's going on in this world. He has archives, he has inherited Stalin's archives, he has access to the university, some of the best intelligence services in the world. They know what's going on with extraterrestrial affairs, with technology, and they have the ability also to just simply observe, right? Putin explains to Stone, I've seen 4 of those guys come in and out, and each time it's the same movie. And first thing he knows, he's going to be met by a group of, how did he describe them, men in black. And they're going to say to the president, okay, we're here in charge, we're going to say to you now how this works, sign your name here, and then we're taking over. The Art of the Deal is actually an extension of the work by Norman Vincent Peale. You know that Trump as a teenager went to Sunday school or something like that. I don't know the details, but anyway, he met with Norman Vincent Peale on a regular basis. That's the pastor who wrote the famous book, The Power of Positive Thinking. So just so you know that Trump's book, The 11 Steps, is like a condensation, extension or adaptation of Vincent Peale's famous classic, and adapted to what is now, I would say, 30 years later, a change in modality. So what is a change in modality now is that we've said new magnetic, electromagnetic currents have come in, a new astrology, this situation that we're going to have now with Jupiter, Neptune, Pluto, over still 2 to 3 years until we go into the 2020 alignment. So there's a change in modality, how people are thinking on the one side of the spectrum, because they have now been immersed into these new ways of looking into the future, whereas other probably large segments of populations are possibly overwhelmed by the electromagnetic changes, by the currents, the weather changes, climate changes, and all of that's going on. So we're moving now through a critical phase of really a new mind being manifested. New thought, new way of looking at the future, a new way of assessing the world, of assessing yourself in the world, of understanding what's going on. One could say that with the astrology we had for the last, say, 100 years, we were moving into that direction of acquiring knowledge, and now we have a return path where we're gathering the understanding of the knowledge, roughly speaking. And if you look at Pluto, for instance, 250-year cycles, you see we're going to come now into the Pluto in Aquarius phase. So Pluto in Aquarius, that's very, very powerful. And if you look when it happens, every time you see a pattern, that's when society structure, the system of society changes. Aquarius is the future, group systems, management, and Pluto transforms all that. So for instance, at the end of the 18th century, the last 20 years, Pluto spends about 20 years in Aquarius. You know what happened then, right? So now the next phase begins right now in 2024, will last until 2044, 20 years. So imagine this will be a technological society, at its best and potentially at its worst, because Pluto has these both sides. A very dark side in Pluto in Aquarius situations that look kind of like Blade Runner, or you have these certain people who suggest that you would merge mind with machine and create robots. That's a future which would lead to the end of mankind. But you have the other technology groups, which will be younger people, mainly people who are now maybe 18, 19, 20 years old, who come out of universities with 2 degrees or more. And those are system managers or problem solvers. They're not interested in left, right, politics, sociology. They're very technical minded and very solution orientated. That is the future potential we have on the positive side with Pluto in Aquarius, and in good alignments no less with Uranus in Gemini. I've said often we have a positive potential of a technology society that will replace all of this social order we have now, because later the Nordics say there comes even a time with no more governments. There will be no military, no governments, all this. Also the economy will be structured differently, the industries will be different. But we have to get there first when Pluto will be in Pisces, across opposite from Uranus in Virgo, which is highly technological. By that time in 45 we would have what I would describe as an almost technological consciousness revolution. Yes.